Most of the early cities before the modern era started with a marketplace where people were able to buy and sell things, and the evolution of the cities economically and physically and logistically was about being a place of exchange. But I think you also know that over the last 100 years, there have been 3 revolutions in the relationship between cities and retail. Revolution number 1, the creation of department stores 100 years ago, that suddenly changed the pattern of how retail was visible in the high streets of cities and put all of the shops into one building instead of in separate spaces. Revolution number 2, the creation of shopping centers, some of them in the city, some of them outside of the city. And the reorganization of travel to shop, the separation of the retail space from the other urban space. Revolution number 3, the internet, the creation of online shopping, the evolution of multi-channel retail opportunities. And each of these 3 revolutions, cities had to respond to in new and innovative ways in order to be able to succeed.
We're an organisation, we're a national organisation in Britain that's the voice for BIDs, Business Improvement Districts, a very new concept in the UK. It's only 8 years old. There's lots to tell you, and I'll tell you some facts in a little while. But we're really focused on thought leadership, on market commentary, on research, on understanding how and why these organisations will work for cities, and really ensuring quality exists in what is a very new industry for the UK. So what are they? Well, business improvement districts, they're business-led partnerships. They're about improving and enhancing commercial areas. And the way they work for us in the UK, they bring a mandatory levy on all occupiers within a commercial area after a ballot, and I'll pick that up in a moment. But many other places in the world have done this before us. They've largely done that levy on owners because that's where their tax base is. For UK, the tax base is on occupation. So it's about bringing businesses together, choosing to generate a business plan, choosing to vote for this thing, choosing to invest in this thing, and then coming together and having a commercial fund for up to 5 years. Consumer spending isn't stopping, but the style of consumer spending is changing dramatically. It depends which figures you believe and which ones you trust, but roughly after 40% in the UK of spend going into our major supermarkets and out of town, and about 20-odd% of our spend going onto the internet, it leaves us with, at best, 30 or 40% of spend coming into our town centres for retail. And that's something we've got to take very seriously, and we've got to understand what we need to do to change the shape and style of our centres to make them live into the next generation. The belief in our town and city centres still absolutely exists in here, in the heart. The challenge is, does it exist in the pocket? So many people are spending the money elsewhere, but wanting to see our town and city still exist. And balancing the footfall and the involvement in our town centres and the belief in our town centres with spend is a really important challenge, and that's why we need to mix it up and understand what works and what doesn't work, what brings people to the town and city centre, what keeps them there long enough to spend money there too. They can't just be museums, they won't survive. In less than 8 years, we've gone from legislation established in the back end of 2004, the first bids established in 2005. By 2010, we saw the first renewals coming through, and today, 143 locations across the country have a bid in place. So in less than 8 years, 143 locations have brought together a business plan and an investment plan to make a difference. So 143 bids exist. That means currently 55,000 businesses across the UK are paying bid levies into these organisations, and £91 million worth is being invested in those 143 locations. This is a significant scale of concept now that, as I say, is growing rapidly. In terms of what they do, in absolute headline terms, it starts very much, as it has done in the States and South Africa and elsewhere, with the basics, with clean, green and safe, with ensuring the foundations, the building blocks of our towns and cities are there and are right. But it very rapidly, and for us, much more rapidly than the States, moves into marketing, destination management, place branding, and a focus around shaping the place and making it visible, and making the very important comparisons to the shopping centre mentality, the out-of-town mentality that says this is a destination you want to be part of. This is something you have an emotional bond with. This is the place that we want you to feel a loyal customer of, and understanding the customer base to make sure that they really feel that bond. And increasingly, economic development and inward investment, shaping that place, being drivers of change such that it absolutely ensures there is a future to these locations. It isn't just about the here and now, it's about driving change for the future. We believe we're seeing a real governance evolution in the UK through bids. We see this place management concept changing because of this very kind of commercial approach to locations through the bid mechanism. They're business-led, they're very business-friendly, they're very entrepreneurial in their style, they're very innovative. They don't get caught up in mainstream bureaucracies, they don't get caught up in politics. They deliver change in a commercial way. And they're about being a collective appreciation of a place, a collective voice for a place, and importantly, and I think increasingly important, a collective brand for a place. We all know that consumers are chasing brands now in terms of individual brands and brand-led locations. Town centres absolutely need to do the same. They need to understand that without a place brand, they don't have an audience. I think importantly, the thing to leave you with is, irrespective of the vast, disparate ownership in town or city centres, the complex nature of partners, stakeholders, the bureaucracies, the administrative boundaries, the competitiveness, the politics, bids are about one place, one entity, and managing it in such a way that it's beneficial to everyone, because the consumer doesn't care about any of those things. The consumer wants the place and wants to understand the place, and that's why place brand is so important, and the whole connectivity of all of the things that a consumer wants is so important, and that's what bids are bringing together. The challenge for us has been bringing together enough people, enough businesses to create a critical mass and to create a voice for a place, to start demonstrating the real commercial interest in making a difference. For us in the UK, a lot of the early work in establishing the first bids was around selling the concept to our big national retailers at head office level and at regional level, not at local level, because particularly at the beginning, and still so in many cases, the vote was being taken at national head office level, not at local level. So we needed to get the big retailers at head office to understand the concept and believe in it first. Then we needed to take it back into the location and get their local store managers interested. And the local store manager generally is actually very interested in something that will drive footfall, will increase sales, will increase cash into their till, and will reduce crime and disorder that impacts on stock loss. So that ticks their boxes, but actually to get the bid established, it needs to come at head office level. Once we establish the first few, and that was a challenge to get those first few and to get the concept introduced, we can now, and have done for the last 2 or 3 years, we can now sell the virtues of bids to other locations. And many people now see, just through some of the examples I've shown you today, the difference these things make for a very small sum of money for each business. And I can't tell you that we get 100% turnout at our ballots, because we don't. They can be quite challenging to bring enough turnout into the ballot. But we're generally now averaging at renewal 48, 49% of businesses, all businesses, that's not just retailers, to vote. And so we are getting less apathy and more interest. But it is a challenge, and it is about really gradually creating that momentum where businesses believe it will make a difference. Of course, it's much easier when you have a very noticeable threat in a location, but many of our early ones, they were making good places better, not bad places good. So that leaves you with a challenge.
Julie, could you just to check your answer for a minute, are you saying that for the small retailers, because I think you were thinking about these independents, for them somehow if the big retailers, the national level retailers that have a local presence, if they came in, this motivated the independents? Why is that?
Absolutely, because there is a basic philosophy that the small guys expect the big guys to invest. The small guys expect the big guys to lead. The small guys won't invest and won't put time and money in if they feel it's disproportionate to the big guys. So this model is very simplistic. It's a percentage charge of our business rate value. So it's appropriately proportionate to every individual business. So a small business has the belief and the trust that the big guys are supporting it and are leading it and are going to pay the lion's share, and they're just putting a small contribution in. And actually, we found the passion often comes from some of the small businesses first, but their expectation is that they see leadership from the big ones.
Julie Grail has been answering our question one. Question one, how are cities and town centres and urban areas responding to the challenges of 21st century retail? And Julie has given some wonderful examples of how the business improvement district mechanism is proving to be the right instrument for creating a lot of different kinds of innovations. So that's part one of our summit. Part two of our summit is to answer this question. If a city is successful in generating an attractive and productive retail system, what else can the city get from that? How is retail an asset for the city? And what can the city do to make the most of its retail offering? To talk to us about that, we have Mateu Hernandez. Mateu is the chief executive of Barcelona Global. It's a network, a club of the leading businesses in Barcelona. It's another business-led organization. Prior to establishing and leading Barcelona Global, Mateu Hernandez was the chief executive of the economic development function of the city of Barcelona. So he knows the city pretty well.
We think in the city as a big shopping center, not as East Shopping Center plus Center Shopping Center plus North Shopping Center. No, this whole the city is like a big shopping center. Why we do that? Because we think that shopping is not only fulfilling a need, it's an experience. And the city and retailers and big investors there are always keeping in mind that shopping is an experience. And that's important to face some of the threats Greg mentioned at the beginning. If we think that shopping is only satisfying a need, it's easy sometimes to buy through internet. If you buy through internet, then your center maybe will begin to get empty. If you think shopping as an experience, your city center, if it's well kept, it will be full. Even fuller than before. Even fuller than before. And that's why the city, retailers, and the shopping areas are always trying to invest on experiences, not fulfilling needs. Experiences. Shopping as experience for locals, first thing. This is important. For natives, it's highly important. Some cities think on shopping as experience only for foreigners, for visitors. This is okay, but Barcelona has focused its shopping system as experience also for locals. And this is very important. 85% of people buying in Barcelona is buying in a place in a walking distance store. This is amazing. So people is not taking the car to buy goods. It's going to the neighborhood area. 85% going by walk to buy in Barcelona. So the city is prepared for locals to buy. Some assets. As I mentioned before, 39 public markets. This picture that is not really well with pixels and things like that, this is one of the central public markets in Barcelona. It is not La Boqueria, for those that have been in Barcelona, it is Santa Catarina, which is just behind the cathedral. This market was renewed about 10 years ago, and they put a huge roof, colored, which represents big fruits, big vegetables. This is an example on renewing public markets and putting public markets as a big issue in town for locals and for visitors to go there, to visit, to shop, to eat, to drink, to do whatever they can. And that allowed city centers, in plural, not the city center, but all the city centers that have a public market, to have an asset there that revitalize the area. Shopping is an experience, or has to be an experience for locals, but also for visitors. And this has been what I would say an anti-cycle policy in Barcelona in order to have people buying in Barcelona, although the huge crisis we are having now. Barcelona is, as you may know, a major urban touristic destination in Europe. We have about more than 7 million tourists a year in Barcelona. That's a lot. We are quite above of the major destinations in Europe, and just, I think that in a few months, we will have more tourists than Rome. It has an impact. It's not only measured like, well, it seems that all those Russian, Japanese, Central European, Americans, French that come to Barcelona, they buy, they go to Paseo de Gracia and they buy. Well, they spend almost 2,000 million euros on credit card in Barcelona. Almost 2,000 million euros on credit card spending, foreign credit card spending in the city center of Barcelona. That's a huge impact on economic terms for a city, I guess, that fits all this amount of people that's working on the retail sector in Barcelona. Which are, from our point of view, the key elements for a retail policy that apply to Barcelona and may or not apply to other places? Regulation. There's a strict regulation in Barcelona on retail. It's a game, and there's a regulation to that. This regulation has been focused traditionally on having the city center as a shopping center. So trying to avoid people taking the car and going out of the city to buy in big, huge, unpersonalized malls that exist in Barcelona as well. But keeping a regulation that allows, that makes easy to open and to transform and to make better stores in the city center of Barcelona. I mentioned before public markets, but investing on them, investing to renew what was a traditional asset, what was a traditional Mediterranean thing. People goes there, and on the 80s, people going there were only old people going to the market. Old people. So now it's 42% of people going there to buy fresh products. Why? Because it's been a huge investment there. Huge investment that keeps going now in the middle of the crisis. 9 markets in Barcelona now are under renovation. But renovation doesn't mean painting the walls. It means putting these huge machines there, taking all the retailers there out in like a tent, merging some of them, because some of those businesses were familiar businesses that could not open on the afternoon, for instance, because it was the mother and the father. Now we force them, or we suggest them to merge and to create a little bit of critical mass of those stores based on public markets. But why we could suggest them to do that? Because we said we're going to invest there. And if we invest there, you will have to open on the afternoon, you will have to sell other products, you will be able to attend some visitors coming here, and well, there's a huge renovation on public markets. Those buildings are gorgeous, industrial, big places, but not functional. And then what we do is, keeping those traditional buildings alive, we go underneath, we build parking lots, because people want to go to the shopping center by car. Okay, let's go by car. And also, very important, complementing those small stores which fulfill those markets with small but big retail centers selling other kind of goods. So asking or kindly offering those spaces to Fnac, offering those spaces to Carrefour, offering those spaces to big chains, to have a space there to sell the goods that are not sold by the stores that sell usually fresh food there. And this allowed those public markets to become like malls, or small malls owned by small businessmen, family-owned, together combined with Fnac. And that's been because of the huge public investment we've done there to build parking and to build other commercial surfaces within those markets, but keeping them in this traditional flavor Mediterranean cities have. Last but not least, malls. They are an important part of the city strategy to have retail. But all kinds of malls? No. Sorry, no. Integrated on the city ambience. We don't like boxes, gray boxes there, protected from the neighborhood, arriving by car. What we try to convince investors is to create an ambience. And there you can see two pictures of an old bullfight stadium that was empty. Nobody's going to bullfights in Barcelona, mainly because they are forbidden. So what to do with those spaces? Those spaces are part of our story, are even nice. So one of them has been transformed into a mall with a Richard Rogers project, together with a Spanish architect, is in front of the convention center, and now is a small mall integrated in the area, with small stores, with a big auditorium, with some food courts, so whatever. Second example is down there. This huge building there is in La Diagonal. It's called the La Illa, the island. This is a great shopping center, but looks like being on the main street of Barcelona. It is not a box closed to the city. And that's what we asked all the investors willing to invest in Barcelona on malls, on shopping centers. Well, this is, Barcelona will benefit you if you understand that all Barcelona is a shopping center.
Let's get to some conclusions here, if we may. I think that what Julie spoke about very clearly was the need for high streets, town centres, city centres to become again competitive by organising their platform so that it is safe, clean, attractive, exciting, interesting, well-organised, alive and dynamic. And she described a mechanism for doing that. Mateu described how a whole city can begin to see itself as a shopping centre and to include within that the right product mix, the right modes and forms of retail, the right ingredients, so that it's seen as very successful, and the importance of that as a way forward. So if we think about the city and retail, what we think about is a relationship that needs to be carefully managed with both sides, the retailers and the city, being dynamic and proactive and having the right kinds of partnerships.